Welcome everyone to E2KG in 30. This is our Enough to Keep Going newscast. It's 30 minutes coming at you on Thursday night. 30 and Thursday. How about that? So we are here. It is the three of us, just to keep the alliteration going. We've got Zeux and Osiris Prime, and Osiris is flashing some signs there.
Threes.
Oh, threes. Okay, good. That's always safe. Always good to know. So we are going to keep things moving, get us into the news headlines. This week was Gamescom over in Germany. On the Monday night show, we talked, Prime and I, we talked a pretty good amount about some of these news items. Not the ones we're going to cover tonight so much, but Gamescom had a number of announcements and new trailers and other pieces there. So if you're interested in some of that, obviously there's lots of sites out there that have that listing. And if you want some of our perspective on that, go back to Monday's show. We will be coming tonight with a handful of headlines that are going to cross a number of councils and platforms and publishers and get into hopefully some interesting conversation along the way. But we're going to keep things moving, keep things rolling relatively quickly because, again, this is enough to keep going, and we're just going to keep going. So, Prime, I'm going to start off with you. If anybody has been watching us over the last 2 months, they have known that we have gone back and forth on speculation about this Atari box, but you've got a different Atari story for us tonight. Is that correct?
Yes, this is not an Atari box announcement. We haven't had anything actually for quite a while on the Atari box, but our good friends at Atari are, looks like they're suing Nestle over a commercial that they aired back in looks like 2016. So basically the commercial played out, you know, people are doing whatever in the commercial, and they got a kind of a Kit Kat, I guess it's the Kit Kat minis, or I'm trying to look at the story real quick. I lost my spot, but the Kit Kat minis kind of go into almost like a breakout style game where, you know, they're, you know, it's like a little ball or whatever bouncing around the screen, and they're hitting the bricks up on top instead of bricks. It's Kit Kats. So Atari thought, you know what, that's a little bit too close to breakout that we had back in the day. So they're suing them for not only punitive damages, but also amount of 3 times Nestle's profits for the campaign, which kind of wondering how they're even going to figure that out. Like, how do you even know that the sales? I guess maybe how the sales went up maybe for a little bit after that. I suppose I don't know. I don't even know how you figure that out. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting. And you know, this game, I was just reading this article again, and I didn't realize came out in 1976. It's a very familiar year because that's when I was born. So it makes me very old.
Prime is dating himself right here.
That's right.
But I have a bigger question, though. So of all the news stories that are going on this week with Gamescom, with other things, with you choose a lawsuit about a candy commercial from last year. Why? Why did this stand out to you as your lead-off story?
Let's not give him any flack for being our legal correspondent for tonight.
Oh, okay. Well, yes. Go ahead. Is that in your? That's in your banner tonight, right? Is Osiris Prime, unofficial legal correspondent?
That's right. Ace Attorney, law. No, I just you know, I like to go with kind of quirky news stories that I find out there, and I think I've done a couple of stories where it's like people suing other companies and stuff like that. I had the what was it, the esports and the MLB, and I forgot. Yep. There was like one other one that I had done, and I, you know, like I said, I just like to pick out just kind of, you know, different stories. And actually, I don't think I put this first. Maybe Zeux might have put that first, but I just picked the story though, so I just found it.
So that's good. Yeah, it's good to come out and pull some stories that are not going to necessarily grab the top headlines for everybody else. Those are easy to find, and so part of what we try to do here on E2KGn30 is give you a well-rounded newscast here. So,
yeah,
Prime, you've got
the tagline is 9 of the biggest or most interesting to us articles in gaming news. I specifically put that in the description for each podcast.
Always safe, right? There's a nice disclaimer there. That goes back to Prime's legal advice from the very beginning, is make sure we have that disclaimer involved. But Prime, do you have another story that is most interesting as well?
Yes, so I got a early access story here, and I know you guys had touched on early access and this kind of subject about a week or two ago. Unfortunately, I wasn't here for that. Actually, it was 2 weeks ago because I remember I pitched it, but then I had to bow out of that show. But so We Happy Few, and this comes from I got the article from Kamasutra, which actually is getting it from an Engadget interview that they did with Compulsion Games founder Guillaume, I'm going to say, probably butchering his first name, Provost. So they're talking to him about We Happy Few, a game that's currently on early access, and I believe in game preview on the Xbox 2. I think it's already out on there.
Yes,
but
it is.
Yeah. So he was talking about how not only have they, obviously through game preview, they're getting feedback back, and they're changing things around in games. One of the things they mentioned is how they first started out as this was going to be predominantly a procedural generated roguelike game, but the players seem to attach to the well, as they put it, the drug-fueled dystopia setting, and kind of wanted that more fleshed out in an extra story. So they've started to change the game around to do that, but also not only that, but they've actually since they're doing more with the story and stuff like that, they actually had to up their the personnel out working on the game. So they went from a 7-person team and up to now a 40-person team. So I mean that's a pretty big leap. And I know you guys are talking about early access and stuff like that, but I'm going to say this is a kind of a good thing. I mean it brought more people into the studio. It created jobs, which is always good, but it also kind of, well, I guess for better or worse, they're pretty much changing the game and how it was originally envisioned. Now, I guess that's one of the things I want to ask you guys was, do you think that's for the better? Or do you think it would have been better if they would have just left it how it was?
So I'm going to start here just to give some reference point, right? So We Happy Few, this was an Xbox, this was a Microsoft stage show during E3 2 years ago in 2016, I believe, right? This was the dystopian, you're taking a happy drug and the player doesn't take the drug and starts to see, rather than the birthday cake, they see that everybody is devouring a rat, right? And they're trying to escape from the kind of Orwellian oppressive government that are enforcing them. These are the coppers with kind of clown masks on, right? And that was really engaging and got a lot of hype. And then they put it out on early access, and there was a ton of feedback across gaming press and social media about that, exactly what you're talking about, Prime, is that people were looking for more of that kind of dystopian hook rather than that being the kind of introduction to the game, and then you were sent out into a procedurally generated world that didn't feel nearly as connected to what they had built in terms of a narrative from the beginning. So I think in terms of the nice part about an early access game is that it has the potential and the ability to respond to what that market is, right? That the developers may have come up with one game, but the market is responding that they're looking for something else. And so this is a benefit where the early access, the engagement with the community can hopefully ship a stronger product in the end. Zeux, you and I have talked about the early access with Swiss a couple weeks ago here. Do you have thoughts on this shift in terms of a game like this?
So I guess the biggest thing for me that's going on currently, and I've probably spoken marginally negatively about the concepts of these business models that are outside the mainstream. I guess what I'm currently kind of exploring in my head is, trying to true this up against other business models, right? So for a very long time, I've had a problem with the publishers' take that they should be paid for their previously sold games, right? That GameStop shouldn't be getting that money. And I don't know if GameStop should be getting that money, but my problem inherently has been, if I buy a car and I sell it, Ford doesn't get money on that sale, right? That's just, so it just doesn't make sense to me in the global economy perspective. Same thing here, right? I'm kind of like, if maybe Tesla is not a good example, but it's what I'm going to go with. If Tesla came to you and said, "Hey, we've got the car 50% ready. It doesn't have AC. We haven't installed a stereo, and there's only 3 tires on the car. But if you want, and you want to pay me 50% of the cost for it, you can go ahead and drive it now for the next 6 months. And then we'll deliver the rest of the car later. So there's some weirdness in that. I guess my biggest problem with the early access model is when it drags on for too long. Like, I feel like early access should mean a thing, right? And that's kind of an analog to my problem with movie trailers that are, that are 12 seconds long and don't do anything but put the title of the movie up. I'm like, and I guess now we've officially started calling those teaser trailers, and I'm just like, that's not a trailer, right? You're not telling me anything about the movie. It's an announcement trailer, and I don't really need that. So, early access is fine, but I feel like it should be kind of in the box. I really, and I may have heard this on another podcast, but I would really like the industry to kind of settle on what all these terms mean. Like what's a beta, what's an alpha, what's a closed beta, what is an open beta, and what is early access? Because it's janky when one game is in early access for 5 years, right? But another one, early access is 2 months, and both of them want you to pay them money to gain access to early access.
Yeah, I think, just real quickly, one of the problems there too is obviously betas and early access and all that kind of stuff was set and kind of in stone before, but now when it jumped to the consoles, now it's like completely something else, because usually a beta is really not really a beta because they're usually doing it like a month beforehand. So, I mean, you can't really call that a beta really because you can't change too much in the game. But I don't know, I guess just my thought.
Yeah, and I feel like there shouldn't be anything wrong, and Nintendo kind of went this way. There shouldn't be anything wrong with just admitting that something is a stress test, right? That something's a network code stress test. But we're wrapping those things in the cloth of labels like beta. So that's, problematic.
So Zeus, you've got a story for us. We talked about this, Prime and I talked about it a little bit on Monday's show, and this is not necessarily something that's going to be beta, but is going to be a full launch product here. So what's your new story?
So this is pretty interesting. Look, THQ was one of my favorite publishers ever. I was sad to see them go away. I've tracked the lineage of the DNA as it was, atomized across various publishers in the gaming industry. But it's interesting to me to see some of that kind of coming back around and some of those consolidations and reincorporation of their IP, honed back to a singular publisher. And one of those publishers who captured some of that IP have rebranded themselves recently as THQ Nordic. They have recently announced at Gamescom very early in this week a new title called Biomutant, which this article is over on Game Watcher, and it's a new open-world kung fu game from the creators of Just Cause. Prime and I have talked at length. I love Just Cause for its, I think, DB, you're the one who's labeled these types of game as streamable or streamables. Just Cause is just one of those high-octane games where something crazy is going on all the time, and you can easily cut out 20 minutes of time to stream it or game capture, and you're guaranteed to get watchable footage. So this game is supposedly, a commenter feels like this is a spiritual successor to Jade Empire. Like I said, it's being published by THQ Nordic. It's coming from a new studio made up of veterans of Avalanche who worked on Just Cause and Mad Max. I didn't play the Mad Max game. When it came out, I was overwriting on Geeks Worldwide, but one of my oftentimes collaborators and frequent co-workers, Jonathan Reyes, did play the game and was very enamored with it. So what's interesting to me is they are literally throwing everything into this game. So it has kung fu martial arts, but you can also arm up with sidearms. Your characters are anthropomorphic, so they're animal-like characters. But of course, because every game today has RPG elements in it where you can level up, you can add on cybernetic enhancements, you can plus up with things like mechs, jet skis, air balloons, UFOs, grow bat wings, add claws, so you have both biological upgrades and mechanical upgrades. And in addition to all that, it has vehicles. So this is a literal smorgasbord of every popular game mechanic that's present in the current design language. There's a chance that it will be overwhelming and too much and will wind up being janky and clunky and not well pulled together. It's difficult to imagine a singular development team that can refine and do well at all of those engines. Some of it may be getting farmed out. That's very popular these days to take a support studio, as they call it, and say, hey, I just need you to work on the vehicle physics and mechanics. So it'll be interesting to see how it comes out. I am very excited for it. I have my kit for the podcast that I usually use to stream adjacent video, but I didn't get time to get everything set up, so I wish I could stream the trailer. But I'm very excited at the notion of this type of game being put together by the developers of Just Cause.
Did it have any crafting? I know you like crafting.
Did not indicate crafting.
All right.
Firmly puts it right in my wheelhouse. All of that.
These are things that Zeus likes, right? We're not going the other spectrum. No, this game, I think, to me, this is one of the more interesting things that came out of Gamescom in terms of announcements. Is it's an actual full-on game. It's not a sequel. It's a new IP. It's something. It's going to pull from a lot of variety, as you're saying, right? A lot of variety of genres and mechanics, and it has the potential to start something different and provide a new experience for people.
I actually saw a little bit of gameplay. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, but yeah, it looked pretty interesting. You kind of, go on the go. Well, kind of on the go, where you kind of switch between, kung fu fighting and the shooting. Not as fast. It didn't look as fast as like Devil May Cry or anything like that, but it was kind of cool. So it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, my only hit against the game is again, as 99% of the games that are coming out are, it's open world.
Yeah.
So with being able to switch between game modes and explore an open world, my next story here is kind of a twofold one, and there is a segue here. It's about being able to switch up your game options. So EB Games, one of the subsidiaries of GameStop, right? Back when EB Games and GameStop and a number of other used game sellers and game sellers in malls all across the late 80s and 90s.
I'm sorry, so there's still EB Games out there?
Yes, there are. Well, not in America. So
Okay.
EB Games. So yes. So in Canada, there's EB Games. They are there. They are thriving. I think it is more of a branding, right? They are all part of the same parent company. So this story is about EB Games in Australia is doing a service, basically like they're rolling out a game rental service that you'll be able to, for $20 a month, that you can take any used game within their store, take it for as long as you want, bring it back, and then grab another used game in their store. So if you tried out one of those open world games that Zeus was just talking about and you didn't like it, you could bring it right back. You could, play it and knock off all the quests and, bring it back later and turn it back in for another game. So rather than the kind of traditional GameStop model of buy it used, only get a little bit of credit back when you trade it back in, here it is, that for $20 and they're getting some good sales with it. And again, this is only rolling out in Australia at this time, but they've had some success. So, and I'm pairing it with the GameStop parent company is having some not success in terms of their profits over the last year here. So again, as they report their fiscal year for the second quarter profits are down. They are down about $5 million from last year to this year. Again, there's still, $22.2 million of profit, but they're down from 27.9. So this could be something that. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Did they quote a percentage on that? What's the percentage delta?
So that we could probably just do the math, right? Like if they were at 27.9 last year and they are now at 22.2. I can't host and do math at the same time, but yes, so no, they did not. Yes, here we go. What changed? GameStop says that this is a news article in Gama Sutra from today. While hardware rose 14.8% thanks to Nintendo Switch, their overall sales fell for used game sales, and also they fell 3.4% and 7%. So they had both new and used games are down. So new games are down 3.4%. Used game sales are down 7.5%. So again, this writing has been on the wall. The trends are there. GameStop has been struggling with the continued rise of digital, but the aspect of what EB Games, GameStop, parent company, is doing in other markets might lend some ideas about what we could be seeing here as well. So again, rather than going into GameStop and picking up a used game or trading back in, 6 used games to get your $10 back, the potential of paying games as service, but treating it as a subscription, almost like an in-store Netflix, right? Or there used to be this thing called rental stores, right? The Blockbusters and Hollywood Videos.
That's where I was going to go.
Right? Even Blockbuster did this at one point in time, where you could buy a pass and rent X number of movies every month with that pass. So I'd be very interested to see if this is a direction that GameStop thinks that they could be going into. So GameStop did see some success with their Switch sales that did help some of their profits, at least in terms of hardware. And Zeux, you've got a Switch story about Elder Scrolls, which is coming out when?
Yeah, so I find this a little funny. So this is reported over at Gear.Nuke, which incidentally I did a website review on over at my own blog, gearworks.com, where I just kind of, I bookmark a lot of sites and look at a lot of websites. So I try and write up a little description to help people out determine whether or not a site is worth bookmarking for them and heading by and set expectations of what they're getting. So over on Gear.Nuke, this is a story, Elder Scrolls V Skyrim for Nintendo Switch release date potentially leaked through retailer. Because that never happens. So once again, Amazon has dropped the bomb on and leaked when a game is likely to release. This is actually Amazon UK posted for pre-order Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, reporting that it will drop on 23 October. Now this is interesting because all throughout the year there's been much speculation about when games that were shown in that in that January Nintendo Switch press conference were shown. I have always suspected that Elder Scrolls V would come out this fall. There were other people who were skeptical of that. It looks like that's probably where it's headed. I found it kind of funny in the Gear.Nuke article that they reported that this is by no means a confirmation of the actual release date. But I'm like, usually when Amazon leaks a release date, it's pretty accurate, with some few exceptions. So just quickly, I went over to the VG247 list of release dates for this coming holiday season, and it looks like if it does drop on October 23rd, that puts it up against Fire Emblem Warriors on the Switch. I don't know if that will give it any competition. They're probably, in the Nintendo user base, there's probably more people that are interested in that than Elder Scrolls. Elder Scrolls is definitely a fence rider game meant to bring people over to our yard who are riding the fence about whether or not they want to get one. The big problem with this release date is Destiny 2 for the PC launches on October 24th. And PC gamers are going to be rabid. I think that, we used to talk about this in the Wii, who are the likely Wii users, right? It was, there was a lot of discussion that it was probably, somebody who played on PC and then bought a Wii to go along with it, or somebody who played on Xbox and bought a Wii to go along with it, rather than buy an Xbox and a 360 and a PlayStation 3. I think those are the likely scenarios. So maybe the PC people won't be so offended because they'll get Destiny 2 on PC and pick up Elder Scrolls for the Switch so they can play it on the go, because lots and lots and lots of PC gamers have also played Elder Scrolls. Nothing really else that big launching in that week. I didn't look at a calendar, so it's tough for me to tell exactly what that release week is. But Assassin's Creed Origins on PC, PS4, and Xbox One also launch on October 27th, along with Super Mario Odyssey. So how likely is it that people are going to pick up Elder Scrolls when they know Mario is coming the following week? Although there could be an argument that that's two different player demographics. So what do you guys think?
So that 27th day is Odyssey, it is Origins, and it is Wolfenstein 2, right? So there are three big AAA games coming. Then, I think as long as Elder Scrolls Skyrim for Switch gets out before the holiday rush of Thanksgiving, I think it's in a fine spot, because really I think it becomes the also pickup game, right? I don't know that it's going to be the game that somebody buys a Switch for, but if somebody is looking at it as their travel console, or if there's becoming a critical mass of things to play on it, that the Switch, the Skyrim on Switch becomes, oh, this would be great to have, right? I think your point, Zeux, about that people have already played this on various consoles. For people that are going to pick this up as a second console, it's going to be the ability and the experience to play it on the go. And so then the release date is not nearly as important as the availability when they're traveling.
So one other comment I'll make before we kick it over to Prime for his opinion and his next article. One thing I have been trying to project is, this would be a slam dunk if this game came out at a reduced price, right? This is an older game. Wouldn't be a half bad idea to release it for something like $29.99 would really be a sweet spot. $39.99 would still even be favorable. The label on the graphic that is shown with this Gear Nuke article shows it being listed at £59.99, which I believe equates, not in dollars, but just in terms of the MSRPs in the different regions, equates to the $59.99 full game price for a North American release. So that might not be in its favor, particularly, like I said, when Mario is coming out around the corner. So, Prime, any thoughts on this before you go to your next article?
No, I was just about to mention the same thing about the price. They really hadn't talked about price before, and or even what version this is of Skyrim. Is it the special edition? Is it a little bit of something in the middle, maybe? I did actually see, once again, I did see some gameplay of this being played. It was more of over-the-shoulder gameplay from Gamescom, so, just a person playing it. The cameraman's behind him on the TV, so you can kind of see it. It's not like an actual trailer or something, so you can, pick out fine details. But, it looked pretty good. As far as I could tell, I was watching it on my phone too, so that wasn't the best place to watch it. But it looked good. So I don't know. Yeah, you're probably right. If it was a little bit less, then it'd probably be better. I know there's some Nintendo specific things that they got in there, like a Link outfit, and there's something else I was reading the other day. I can't remember what it was, but I think even there might be some
shield, the Hyrulean shield.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There's probably weapons too. Yeah, I'm sure there's a Master Sword or something in there. I'm sure. But yeah, if it was a budget price, yeah, it'd probably be better. But I don't know. All the the little doodads and stuff, I'm sure they got other special things in there. I thought I'd read too that there's going to be amiibo support. So maybe kind of like in Zelda, you put your amiibo on there and it'll drop something into the world.
Yeah,
so.
there definitely is, and as with many other things, amiibos are those gifts that keep on giving.
That's right. So you can just keep using them, even at Skyrim. Maybe get a little turtle shell hat or something, or helmet. It'd be kind of cool. But yeah, I guess it is what it is. They're gonna price it up full, but I don't know. So I'll jump on to the next article. Speaking about prices, a little VR news here about the HTC Vive. They announced the price drop here. It looks like Monday. It was on the 21st. So they're dropping down to £599, and also $599 here in the US and the UK respectively. And that's about a $200 price drop for here in the US. So it's a pretty big drop. And they're saying in the article here, this is from IGN, that this is they're pretty much similar now to what the Oculus Rift is. And I believe that's with both the touch controllers too. So I know they had dropped their price a few months ago also, I believe. And I know they had a pretty good deal at one point with the Oculus Rift and the touch controllers. So
yeah, that was a bundle for $399, which had
yeah
motion controllers with it. So it's definitely it's still $200 cheaper than the Vive price drop.
Yeah, and was that a special sale, or is it still that much now?
It was a temporary sale, which is still going. So they have not canceled it. It could be very much like Microsoft had done with their Xbox One for a while, where they dropped it, and it wasn't official, but have continued to keep it at that place because of the market.
Nice. Yeah. So is this just them being nice to the customer now and say, hey, we've sold so many, that we're going to drop the price, or is this them having problems just trying to get the units out? Because what they were I think originally like $700, $800, somewhere around there.
Yeah, they were $799. You know, the big piece there was that it is better hardware. It came with the motion controls already.
Yep,
You know,
sensors.
I think the case probably in both of these is that they've been out for a year. They have had all their early adopters that they're going to get at that price point. And so now, kind of market-wise, at least this is my speculation, right? That market-wise, they're by dropping it down, they then have the ability to bring in more people, widen their user base for people that were price prohibitive at the existing price. You know, the other piece on the Oculus is that there are the rumors out there of a newer model. And so this could also be, price drops could also be about trying to clear out some inventory of their first model. So I'm going to keep us moving here. We are heading into our 30-minute mark. And so, Zeux, on Monday Night Show, we talked about the PlayStation 4 GT Sport Edition, right? We had a driving game conversation without you. It was very short. But as you are disappointed in us, I'm going to turn it back. I'm going to turn it back over to you for the final news story, which is about a different driving game. So
sorry. I want to hear what Prime. What were you saying?
I said I told you he was going to facepalm. He pretty much facepalmed there. So
yeah, pretty much. No, actually, I'm quite pleased that you had that conversation on the night when I was not on the podcast. So it is interesting. I was hoping you would capitalize on the segue that one of the games that you can use with your now cheaply purchased HTC Vive is Slightly Mad Studios' Project Cars 2. So this is a little less of news. It's kind of I don't want to call it a puff piece, but it's less news, more information. Recent interview with the CCO, okay, I guess Chief Creative Officer of Slightly Mad Games, the makers of Project Cars, Rod Chong. He conveyed some things, kind of letting us take a peek behind the curtain of what's going on with the development of Project Cars. This article, by the way, is over on MCV, which stands for something that escapes me right now. Yeah, I don't know. But he mentioned a couple of things that I found interesting, and this is a game that I'm looking very forward to because these guys do racing games right. And it's a game that definitely makes me feel like I get my return on investment from my wheel and pedals. But he mentions that, it's, first of all, they're quoting the number of games that they have, number of cars that they have in the game. Right now it's 180 plus. But he says, look, that's just marketing fluff that all the racing game developers state because you have to in this day and age, right? But he's kind of like, the number of cars doesn't really mean anything. What means something and what holds sway with a lot of the car manufacturers that they've had to build partnerships with is conveying and making a game that clearly conveys your dedication to racing accuracy, both manifesting the effect and feel of being on a track in a large field of cars and the chaos and entropy that can definitely occur on the track when humans and metal and wheels made of rubber get together and respond to variables like temperature and wind and how much sleep a given racer has gotten. So he mentions that the big thing about this game is we are doubling down on the racing accuracy. So yes, there's a lot of cars, but they've also through the faith that car manufacturers see in the attention to detail that they put in their games, they've been able to establish partnerships with elite brands such as Ferrari and Porsche, which Chong indicates was the major feedback from players of Project Cars was that they wanted to see more name brand elite cars. So the thing that's impressive about this Project Cars, don't put me in a box because I don't know if I'm quoting this perfectly correctly, but my recollection is that they kind of started off as a group of enthusiasts who were not paid, just kind of trying to craft the racing game that they always wanted to have made available for them. Then it just accelerated, right? Then they went from this group of dislocated garage band level developers who were putting this thing together and letting fans play it for free. Then it picked up momentum. They became a studio. They then put the game up for sale so that people would actually purchase it through Steam, and the rest is history, so to speak. So again, this is impressive. again, if I draw a line to Gran Turismo, right, it's these guys didn't lock themselves in a room, 500 feet below ground in the, umbrella corporation hive, right, to toil away at a game that appears, 5 years after a console's release. So these guys are a little more open, putting their hearts on their sleeves a little more and speaking to the fans and letting them know what they can expect when the game releases. I think in about a month is when this is coming out. So I think it's a late September or early October release, I want to say.
Yeah, I think that's correct. So, and it's, again, and as we talked about, there's a number of racing games or potential racing games coming out this year. But I think, as you said in your transition, much more eloquently than I did, that the availability of having this in VR is one more kind of feather in their cap in terms of what this game can be for players.
Yeah, and my last comment is just on the fact check. Yes, it's almost literally a month to the day. It's September 22nd, which is also when Pokken comes out and Dragon Ball and Raiders of the Broken Planet, a bunch of stuff, which it sounds like I'm not going to too much care about. So I should be free and open to pick up Project Cars 2.
Excellent. Well, we hope you are free and open next Tuesday. Again, we are changing up our nights. We are back on Tuesday nights. So we are, again, we started the show with some alliterations with T's, and we are ending it that way as well. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, we are coming at you on the E2KG network with in terms of game discussions. We've got other ones. We got Wednesday night as well, with a number of good discussions and unmade beds there as well. So, but this was our E2KG in 36 or so tonight. It's not quite 30, but that's okay.
And I do have one plug before you take us out.
Yes, please do.
So also, please take a look at last night's episode of the Dark Hypotheses podcast, a Dark Matter fan cast. It is the penultimate. We cover the penultimate episode of season 3. So episode 12 aired last Friday. It is the second to last episode. And once again, the wonderful and enigmatic Mr. Joseph Malozzi, co-creator of the show, a longtime writer and producer for the 10 seasons of Stargate, as well as the follow-on property Stargate Atlantis and SGU, did another impromptu drop in. And after kind of we were pretty much wrapped up with the show, which was about an hour, he hopped on and he was in chat while we were doing the live show. Then he hopped on in person and hung out with us for about 30 minutes and talked a lot about the creative process, what's kind of going on with the renewal. There's a big, huge Twitter campaign going on now to support Renew Dark Matter in an effort to show sci-fi the love and the number of fans that there are out there. The number one scripted episodic television show in terms of viewer numbers on the Sci-Fi Network, and we are still waiting for confirmation and news of renewal. So please check that episode out. It's one of maybe the few chances you'll get a chance to see Mr. Malozzi come on a show and do a live bit in support of people who are just fans of the show.
So that is huge. I mean, not only have you had him drop in before, but then to not only be able to talk about the show, but about his creative process as well. So that is great. I mean, I'm glad you pitched that here. That is key. So anybody can find that if they haven't watched the Dark Matter podcast or listened to it previously on the E2KG network. They'll be able to find our other videos, and the Dark Matter ones are all there. So that is excellent. Congratulations. That's a great hook, and I'm sure a very engaging conversation. Anytime you get to talk with a creator about their own process and their development and their art, that is excellent. So that's a great way to end tonight. We will be back here on Tuesday night, and until then, we will always be enough to keep you going. Have a good night.